Hello and welcome to the Electric Honk podcast, number 25. The title of this podcast, Salmon?
Trans CROCS and rainbow washing. Trans CROCS, we'll come on to that later, transgender crocodiles.
Yes.
Or as I put as a typo in the tweet I just sent out, transgender crocodiles. Which made me think of trans ginger. Can you get a trans ginger?
Yeah, like from one shade of ginger to another.
Yeah.
We've had a bit of a strategy change with the titles lately, haven't we?
Yeah, we've gone from goose puns to picking out one or two of the more obscure,
controversial
topics that we're going to cover.
Yeah, and stuff that sticks out on a title, and it's probably not going to make any fucking difference whatsoever. But
we'll go back to goose puns soon.
Yeah, but here we are. Yeah. We are going live on twitch.tv/electric_honk. We'll go live every 2 weeks, and today is Wednesday, the 7th of June. The next podcast will be on Thursday, the 22nd of June. We go live every 2 weeks, and then we also edit this out onto YouTube when we can be bothered. Yeah. And it also goes out on Spotify, Deezer, Audible,
Pocket Casts.
That's
apparently
some very
one.
niche ones that we've been getting. Although we're still not on SoundCloud, we'll get there. Yeah, probably.
But I think we got ourselves on Samsung Podcast or something.
We did, we connected that. Yeah. And we also set up a professional email this week as well.
We did, yeah.
Although we couldn't set it up, so we've bought it.
Yeah. And what is it again?
info@electrichonk.com.
No, it's not hello.
Oh, yeah, it was hello@electrichonk.com. So, yeah, feel free to email us.
Have you actually checked the email since we set it up?
Feel free to email us and we will ignore it.
We'll read it next year.
Have you checked it? No. So, I'm MachineDaena.
I'm Andrew Salmon, Coronation Street Extra. I'm wearing a t-shirt today. It says, "Sorry, I can't. I have plans with my goose."
That's a great t-shirt. Sorry, I can't. I have plans with my goose. So yeah, if you want to see what that looks like rather than just hear what it looks like, then check it out on YouTube or on Twitch. Let's crack on.
Before we get into our first topic, I've got a couple of soft drinks for us to sip on. You've got a choice out of two, so I'll bring them both out and you decide which one you want.
We had a lot of technical issues getting this podcast set up. Which is not like usual. It's normally quite smooth, isn't it? But the lights just decided to not work and then the microphone was disconnecting. So I am ready for a drink. Okay. Not a soft drink, but I'll take it.
This is a soft drink, I'm afraid. So I'll let you choose which one you want.
Oh my God. For those listeners that are not viewing us right now, Salmon just pulled out two of the prime drinks from, was it Logan Paul and KSI?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Available from various outlets. I think it's Asda in the UK.
Sainsbury's these are from.
Tesco.
Higher class prime.
We've got the lemon lime one, which is bright green, and we've got the ice pop one, which is like the French flag colours.
Yeah.
I'll let you take the French flag colours one.
Oh, thank you very much, yeah.
I will take the lemon lime one. I guess we're going to describe what this tastes like.
We can do. I think most of our listeners are young teenagers anyway, who probably have had millions of gallons of this already. But if we've got any older listeners out there who have never tried Prime, we'll try it for you.
Prime, if you want to sponsor us.
The taste test.
This will be the first and last time that your drink appears on our podcast, unless you pay us.
Yeah.
It's got quite a lot of hype, this drink, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's done really well. Was it expensive?
There's so many videos of teenagers running through supermarkets to get it as soon as it's out on a shelf and things like that. Yeah. Expensive. I actually can't remember. I don't think I saw the price, actually.
Oh my God.
I added it at the last minute because it was near the tills.
Do you know what that is? That's like proper middle upper class that you've become now. You've not even looked at the price. You've just gone, you know what, I'm buying it whatever the price.
It was an impulse purchase near the tills on my way out. Right, I was like, I'll get some of them for Daena.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Do you know, I have to say, that is very nice.
Is it?
Yeah, I like it. Do you want to try a bit of the lemon one?
Go on then. You try some of that.
Ice pop. Oh, the ice pop one's... Oh, God. That's very sweet.
Yours is a lot nicer.
Yeah, the lemon lime one is quite refreshing, but the ice pop one is kind of like gets right into the back of your...
It's proper...
Behind your ears.
It's like a bag of sweets in a drink, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's like sherbet. Do you know what I hate? That companies like Aldi and stuff have come out with copies. Like very similar looking drinks.
I love it.
That you know that there's some poor kid that can't afford the real thing, but his mum's gone out and bought him the shit stuff.
Yeah.
He goes into school and gets bullied anyway.
Probably, yeah.
It would be better to just not have any of them.
But Aldi are the masters of trolling the big brands, aren't they?
Yeah.
And producing their own little copies. Apart from the trans crocodiles and the rainbow washing, we're going to cover a little bit of the big news that's been happening in the UK over here with Boris Johnson and his WhatsApps versus the Cabinet Office. Got some AI stuff with Apple releasing some new tech. We've got the usual Goose News, headliner, and pork scratchings. Donald Trump might be making a comeback.
I want to start by talking about Tom Stade. So this is a great comedian that I've watched for years. So we watched Tom Stade. This was a couple of days ago, midweek. I've seen him about 3 times. You've never seen him before, right?
No, never.
Okay. Did you watch some of his clips beforehand?
Just listened to a few in the car on the way to the gig.
Yeah.
Just to get a feel.
What were your overall thoughts?
Of the actual gig that we saw?
Yeah.
Really good. Really
Enjoyed
good.
it?
I thought it was actually a lot funnier than the stuff that I listened to in the car on the way here, which was pleasant. It was quite funny. Okay. But then the actual show was laugh out loud.
Something funny did happen. I wanted to tell you on the day, but so I don't know if you noticed, but I did go to the toilet halfway through, and there was a little sign that was like male, female, and then there was like a transgender toilet sign as well.
I missed that.
And it was like half of it was a man, and then the other half had the skirt. So it was like the guy cut his skirt from like the middle of his chest down to like his bollocks, or I don't know. Has he got bollocks?
Knees.
Which one is he? I don't know. So I didn't bother checking out the actual transgender toilets, but as I was coming out, I turned around. I thought you were following me because I just had like, it was like the feeling of a shadow behind me, and I was like, and I think I said something like, "Fucking hell, look at that transgender sign." And I turned around and looked, and it wasn't you. So I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" So I went into the male toilets, and that guy didn't go into the male toilets. I was like, oh, that's a little bit weird. It didn't look in any way kind of like anything other than your stereotypical comedy viewing male.
Okay.
And I went in, I was like, a bit of a piss or whatever. And then all I heard in the room next door was... This guy must have gone in either disabled or one of the other toilets.
Yeah.
Purposefully not followed me into the blokes. I was just farting his tits off, but I could feel it through the walls anyway.
Jeez, you can imagine his guts were like absolutely rumbling, and he was like, "I need the toilet."
I'm not following him.
He goes to the men's, and there's somebody in front of him. And he's like, "Oh shit, I can't go in there now. I'll have to dive into one of these." All I will say is, though, I think what you're describing as a transgender toilet is probably more of a unisex toilet, like. Anyone, either male or females, can use it. Not that you have to be transgender to use it. So civil service strikes, obviously we covered in previous podcasts that I took part in some of the strikes. It's been discovered or announced recently that the government's initial offer, which wasn't made public, was a 2% pay rise for all civil servants.
Which is quite shit, really, isn't it?
Pretty shit, especially when you consider inflation. And now, as a result of the strikes, the government have come back to the negotiation table, and they've made essentially a final offer of a 4.5% pay rise with an additional 0.5 for the lowest paid and a backdated lump sum of £1,500 for all civil servants to cover last year's. So
the primes are on you today, mate.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, no one's actually been paid that yet, but the unions have announced this is the offer, and we're taking it.
Better.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I find it interesting because if they say it's the final offer, but it's only the final offer because they say it's the final offer.
Yeah.
You could always just carry on striking and force them to up it again.
So that's some good news on the strikes. And also the unions the PCS union, which I'm part of, have announced that it's the first time that they've actually been able to influence government decision on civil service pay to such an extent. So I've gotten a girth day treat. It was my girth day.
So can we just explain the girth part of that?
Girth's just a great word, isn't it?
It is a great word.
We've always loved it.
I sort of don't want to say what I'm about to say, but I will say it. There is a number plate that you can buy, which is literally just the word girth, and it was going for like £11,000. That sounds like a lot of money.
It does.
But for a number plate like that, it feels cheap.
It feels like an investment.
So any of our listeners that have got a few £1,000 lying around.
Would you rather have that or 100 Down syndrome Barbie dolls?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a throwback to the last podcast for those people that don't know what we're talking about here.
Investment tips.
Probably the girth number plate, I would say.
Yeah, I think I probably would.
A bit more functional. So anyway, do you want to explain the girth to people?
Well, I mean, it's a word that we just learned to love over time, and I think it actually stems back from you.
Really?
My recollection is I think you came back and you had a good success at work or something, put the phone down and went... girth. And from that point on, it stuck. I mean, you might have heard it in our student house pre that, but I think that's really
what solidified
took it up a level. Yeah.
Right, okay. Anything that remotely resembles the word girth, such as birth.
Or planet girth.
becomes girth.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. My girlfriend took me out for a treat, as well as this rather nice t-shirt.
That's a great t-shirt.
We went for a morning spa session, little massage, and in the sauna, steam room, swimming, and all that sort of stuff.
Happy ending?
Yep. And it was a male massage.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah.
And then,
did he swallow?
And then went to a Michelin-starred restaurant for some lunch.
Where was it? Was this in Manchester?
It's north of Manchester, near Blackburn.
Okay.
And the Michelin-starred restaurant's called Northcote.
Northcote.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Amazing views, really good food. Rather amazingly, my Michelin-starred dessert was rice pudding.
Rice pudding and all thing as well.
Yeah. Well, it's not cheap though, is it? Like you got to have had a special occasion to go there, I think.
But no, you're not popping in there after a night out.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. After your recent pay rise, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. With my £1,500 to cover a whole year.
Exactly.
Splash it all
That's
in
at
the
least 3 Michelin star meals.
Yeah.
We got on here, Cantona. Now you told me about this earlier in the week, but I stopped you and I said, "Wait a minute, is this a thing for the podcast?" He's like, "I don't know what this is at all."
This actually ties in nicely with my birthday because I'm a huge Eric Cantona fan, and in my eyes, he can do no wrong.
Okay.
And I think it was the day before my birthday.
Okay.
It might have been, it was the morning of the Tom Stade concert, so on the Sunday. I found out that Eric Cantona has launched a music career.
Oh my God.
He's releasing an album. He's released one song already called The Friends We Lost.
Ooh,
and he's also started selling tickets for 2 live dates in Manchester. I bought 2 tickets with the intention of inviting a friend, but Agat said to me, "I'm coming with you, aren't I?" I was like, well, I guess you are, yeah.
Oh, shit.
So, me and Agat are going to go see Eric Cantona live.
That's amazing.
In Manchester.
And when is that?
I think he's live in October.
I guess he must have sold out then, right?
The first date was definitely sold out when I tried to buy tickets. Second date had 30% tickets left.
Well, when people listen to this podcast, it's definitely going to sell out, isn't it? So, well done, Daena.
The first song is very Eric Cantona-y. It's kind of like gentle piano music with a bit of either maybe guitar, violin thrown in. Okay. And he's kind of like half singing, half speaking over the music. And it's quite poetic, romantic. I think it's about old friends that have died and the sort of memory about them. And another thing I've been up to since our last podcast is I went to Wembley to watch Carlisle United versus Stockport.
Yes. Was this like a day or two after the last podcast or something?
Yeah, I think
it's quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So just for the listeners, Salmon is a huge Carlisle fan. We've been to watch them quite a few times.
Yeah.
They made it to the playoff finals. For you Americans, we have a league system in our football. Football meaning soccer, just to translate it. Everyone else in the world uses football, but you guys want to use soccer, fine. A league system that allows the top couple of teams in each league to get promoted or the bottom few to get demoted, but we also have a process that's called the playoff process.
In this instance, the top 3 got automatically promoted, and then 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the league did a little playoff thing. Final of the playoffs was held at Wembley Stadium, which is a huge national stadium in England. And so to see Carlisle there, which is a small town in the north of England, and a team that have been playing in the 4th division of English football, going down to Wembley to watch them play was awesome. It went to extra time. The game finished 1-1, had extra time, then penalties.
Oh my God.
And Carlisle won on penalties, and it was just an absolutely unbelievable day out. The sun was shining. Carlisle fans everywhere going absolutely crazy. And also they were playing against Stockport, which is my hometown.
Our friend Greg went with you. Did he manage to hold up or did he just get too drunk?
No, he stayed relatively sober and enjoyed the full day without zombifying himself.
He's one of these guys that will go from 1 drink, 2 drink, 3 drinks, pretty normal, and then he'll have 1 extra drink and he'll go from normal to complete zombie.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happens.
He's blacked out but still on his feet, isn't he?
Yeah. He just somehow manages to get away with it. LGBTQIA+, and that's because it is Pride Month in June. I was surprised at how many letters that's growing to. I did actually Google what all those letters meant, because I genuinely, it's not me being sarcastic in any way. Yeah. I genuinely didn't know what all the letters meant.
Yeah,
so.
I think I know lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, and then after that I'm stuck.
Yeah. So it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning. So that's an extra Q that isn't in there. Okay. Yeah. Intersex. That's intersex, not intersex. Because that would be everyone, wouldn't it? Well, most people. And then asexual. It's great that there's a kind of a platform that people can celebrate together, celebrate differences, come together kind of thing. And literally probably as well. Who knows? All the companies get involved, don't they? They go, okay, I'm going to change my badge and make it a rainbow colour to make it look like and appear that as a company we care about these causes.
Yeah.
And in most cases, they don't do anything for those causes. They're just trying to get some extra PR.
Yeah.
And I just want to read out what the kind of definition of rainbow washing is.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Just so that you're aware, and the listeners. Much like greenwashing and pinkwashing, I don't know what either of those things are, rainbow washing occurs when companies mislead well-intentioned customers through marketing. For example, in June, a brand may change their social media avatar to incorporate rainbow colours, run advertisements featuring same-sex couples, and sell branded rainbow merch. Why not? Just thinking, like, why not an advert with a guy that just doesn't care about sex? Because that's the asexual thing, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
Just being like a normal guy that doesn't really give a fuck about
how
sex.
How do you
market
across,
it?
You know, just like looks at porn and just looks away disgusted.
Just doesn't look horny.
Yeah.
Surface level marketing that doesn't support queer staff or consumers is considered rainbow washing.
Do you know what my issue is with it all? If you're pro LGBTQIA plus etc. Right?
I don't think the etc. is a part of it.
I don't see why. I guess members of that community may disagree with me here, but my view is I don't see why companies should have to take so many proactive, positive steps to prove that they are. It should just be kind of subtle acceptance of everybody,
yes,
regardless of their
almost
sexuality.
Almost in a way, not making...
Exactly, yeah. We're not going to make a big shout out about it because for us, it's completely normal and there's no need to make a big song
and
about it.
And that seems like it's the fair thing to do. It shouldn't stop people from celebrating how they might be different.
Yeah.
I mean, I do still think that that's a little bit odd because, like, I don't celebrate that I'm a weirdo.
Yeah,
because I'm a weirdo.
Yeah,
but I don't celebrate that I'm heterosexual or whatever. Companies trying to jump on board with it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just like, are they doing it because they feel like they have to? Are they actually getting anything from it? And it's now starting to be the case after many, many years of Pride Month that people are twigging on to the fact that it's just like, this rainbow washing thing that's happening.
Yeah, if you feel awkward in society because society doesn't see you as normal, maybe it does help if major brands try and make it the norm by regularly putting out rainbow merch,
which would be fine if they all agreed on that, but actually some of them do, and then some of them think that they're rainbow washing. So there's like infighting as well, which it's I don't think it helps the cause.
It's a minefield, isn't it? And you worry about saying the wrong thing in that sort of arena.
And I tell you what, I feel like an old fogey as well. So because I don't really know much about it. I'm not ignorant in any way, but I've got a friend who's gay. Top Shelf.
Yeah.
Salmon, you want to explain what Top Shelf is?
So Top Shelf have a different bottle of alcohol every week to test on your behalf and tell you if it's any good, because it's a sort of alcohol that you'll probably be able to find either in your local supermarket or bars or nightclubs and things. We'll test it first so you don't have to waste your money on it.
Or waste your money on it if it's good.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So today's is...
We will get a jingle at some point.
Ooh. Bailey's Scrumptious Salted Caramel. And the reason the reason I chose this is because it was sent to me by one of our regular listeners. A photo of it was sent to me as a sort of hint, as like, you should try this for Top Shelf.
Ooh.
So I thought our listeners are our favourite people in the world. We'll take the hint and we'll give it a go.
We'll gladly oblige. I'm glad that it's something nice, because I could really do with, after these tech issues, like a couple of these shots. Because, the tech issues really stressed me out earlier on today.
And given that our favourite drinks so far all seem to be sort of like creamy, sweet.
So for the listeners that are not watching the live version on twitch.tv/electric_honk or on the YouTube channel, can you describe the bottle?
Classic Bailey's dark glass bottle with your traditional Bailey's logo, but then it's got Scrumptious Salted Caramel in like nice graphics, gold writing with a picture of like, almost looks like an ice cream scoop with like caramel drizzled over the top.
It's basically like a pudding in an alcoholic drink.
Yeah.
Bailey's is a really big European brand. I don't know if it's very big in America, but it's like an Irish cream kind of brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
And most people buy it at Christmas and have like an Irish cream at some point over.
Good in coffee, 17% alcohol. Cool. Let's give it a go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I could immediately taste the caramel.
Yeah.
And that is strong caramel.
Thick, strong caramel, isn't it?
Yeah, and very salty as well. Normally salted caramel, the salted part of it's like a little bit subtle. That is not subtle.
Yeah, I've got a proper aftertaste of salt now, actually.
Yeah, it's lovely, though. I'm
Very
going to pour another. Do you want like a half or something?
Yeah, I'll have another half, yeah. It's like a dessert. Like, you could eat that. You could drink. You could drink that after a meal, couldn't you? And just be like, oh, that's lovely. What a way to finish a meal.
Little, what do they call it? Aperitif.
Yeah.
Transgender crocodiles. This is a really small segment, although we've given it a bit of airtime by putting it in the title. There was a piece today about a crocodile that has been found to have delivered an egg that is 99.9% the same DNA as itself, which means that crocodile has essentially somehow made itself pregnant and has given birth to, well, it's delivered an egg. Unfortunately, it was a stillborn egg, but the fetus inside it did test 99.9% same DNA. They're getting quite excited about this because they're thinking if a crocodile can do it, this can potentially be something that they might have been able to do with dinosaurs and things like that. So, and with genetic engineering and stuff like that, and DNA engineering, they think they might be able to potentially get dinosaurs at some point. That wasn't the focus of the article. It was mainly about the finding.
Yeah.
But it's like a really curious thing that they've been able to get this crocodile.
That's amazing. Is it transgender in any way?
The implication is that it's male and female reproductive organs.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where the edge for that. I don't know. I don't think it moved from one to the other. Put it that way. Multi-gender? Maybe we've just been living a lie on this podcast.
All right. Should we move on to... I don't know how to follow that up. For anybody that may have heard about Boris Johnson and the Cabinet Office being head-to-head, but maybe not really having a clue what it's been about, or maybe you've seen overseas in America, or all of you Texans out there listening, maybe you might have heard that Boris is in the news but not really sure what it's about. This all stems from Boris Johnson's lawyers were going through some of his diaries and things like that as part of his defense for the upcoming COVID inquiry. They found a load of information which may look bad for Boris Johnson, that he had more lockdown parties than we previously thought about.
Is anyone surprised at this?
No. So Boris Johnson's lawyers said, you know what, we're going to have to give this to the Cabinet Office and they can do with it what they want. I think they kind of hoped that the Cabinet Office would just discreetly bury it and leave Boris Johnson alone.
By policy, the Cabinet Office have had to raise it.
That's what they said, and I think they did have to. But I think it also brought a lot of delight to Rishi Sunak and the government, who seem to be trying to shove Boris Johnson out of the party as much as they can. A lot of delight of reporting this to the police, and Boris Johnson has been basically saying, you bastards, you didn't need to do that. As a result, I'm going to give all of my WhatsApp communication to the upcoming COVID inquiry, unredacted. They'll see all of the messages that go on between all of the top government ministers throughout the whole COVID period.
We did cover this very briefly, but it's come a long way in the last 2 weeks, really, hasn't it? So, the thing we mentioned on the last podcast, this was our Prime Minister. This was the number one most powerful person in the UK. Is the type of guy that would retaliate on something like that by going, well, I'm just going to make things 10 times worse.
Yeah,
like in a figurative way, going nuclear.
And he's classic because he definitely does do politics via WhatsApp, and so you can imagine that so much of these conversations with different ministers involve a lot of dodgy topics that they never thought would go public. Now the Cabinet Office are saying, well, we're not going to give that to the COVID inquiry because that's going to contain loads of information
weird stuff
about all of our current ministers that we do not want public.
Feels to me like it could be a national security issue, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. What looks bad is the Cabinet Office, the government essentially, having hold of all of these unredacted WhatsApp messages from Boris Johnson and now saying, well, actually, we don't want to give it to the inquiry because there's stuff in there that we don't want the inquiry to see. And
when we talk about the Cabinet Office, we're basically talking about Rishi Sunak here, aren't we?
Basically, yeah.
So he has made a decision, we don't want this to be the case. It'll go straight up to him, right?
Well, actually, what they've decided now is that they don't want all of those WhatsApp messages to be given to the COVID inquiry, and to stop it, they've taken the Cabinet Office to court to say, we need a judgment on this. Can the inquiry really have all of this information unredacted?
The reason why this is a big problem is because it sets a precedent, and therefore from there onwards, any inquiry could mean that full unredacted WhatsApp messages could be handed over in any situation, in any government, in UK Parliament. This is like House of Cards in UK politics coming down fast.
Part of me thinks I would just love all of these messages to be given to the inquiry, because then they almost certainly have to become public at some point. It is a public inquiry, and the information that they use then becomes public. So I really, really want those messages to be forced to be given to the inquiry.
Yes.
However, I do think that as a politician, if you put yourself in their shoes, you do not expect that communication to ever be public. And so you would say things in there that you would not say to
Well, how about this? Would you hand over your WhatsApp message as a non-politician to anyone?
Absolutely not.
And I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, some edgy stuff.
You feel like WhatsApp is a safe space.
Safe space, yeah. And why shouldn't it be? Because Mark Zuckerberg owns it.
And on the last point on this before we move on is, I think as a politician, I don't feel like every message you send or every sentence you speak to anybody should be publicly available. I think there should be a safe space to be able to operate, and actually you have a public sphere where you can say things and you have a private life.
Sitting on the sidelines with a box of popcorn.
Yeah.
It's so good, isn't it?
It's just turned into Boris Johnson versus the government.
I did see, just briefly before we round that up, I did see on TikTok Boris Johnson out on a run. You always see him on a run, but he never loses weight, does he? He's just like the worst technique runner ever. And he's running, and he's not in London, I don't think. And someone's trying to ask him about these WhatsApp messages, and he's just going, "No interviews here, always only in London." And then he runs off.
Goose News.
I couldn't write a more perfect. Like, if 50 different people and get paid, pay them all to do a jingle, and we'd still settle on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best. Rarest goose in the world hatches goslings at Gloucestershire Wildlife Centre. Nene goslings, which are featured in a previous Goose News, have hatched at the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust in Slimbridge Wetland Centre. This is the second time that Slimbridge has successfully bred this species at its immersive exhibit, Mission Possible. So during the 1950s, the Hawaiian goose, fondly known as the nene, was close to extinction due to the introduction of predators and the loss of its habitat in Hawaii. At one point, there were only 30 nenes left worldwide.
Jesus Christ.
So Sir Peter Scott and his colleagues had three nenes sent to Slimbridge for breeding, where he and his team pioneered the first ever captive breeding project for nenes. They began to successfully breed the nenes in captivity and release them back into the wild, and the world population is now at 3,000. The nenes population remains vulnerable and still relies on regular releases of captive bred birds. Visitors to the Wetland Centre can discover how Sir Peter Scott developed this groundbreaking technique to breed them and rescue them from the brink of extinction, and can see the new nene families at the Mission Possible exhibit.
Wow, I've got so many questions.
Go for it.
Firstly, it made me think of, like, there's a famous scene of a dad that's rescued a bird, and his son's like, "Oh, well, let it go," and the kid lets it go, and then, like, the bird flies off because they've been looking after it all day, and then immediately gets taken out by, like, a hawk. Because, like, if you're taking, like, in captivity birds that you've bred and then letting them go, they're going to be potatoes, aren't they? They're not going to be very useful. That's one thing. And I also thought of, like, nene, such a funny phrase, isn't it? It's such a great, because there's that song, isn't there? Another meme. It's like, "Watch me whip, watch me nene." Have you not?
Never heard that, no.
Well, I'm sure our many Gen Z viewers, listeners, will know that reference.
One extra bit of info for you. The nene is named that because of the noise it makes. This Hawaiian goose makes the sound nene, and that's how it got its name.
Oh, wow.
Rarest goose in the world.
It's quite heartwarming, that, really, in a way. I think when you put it in context of... Because when you see an article like that, don't you, and you go, okay, well, great, it's just an animal that's bred in captivity. Well, when you see that it was like 30 of them in the world at one point.
And it's not a native British species, but makes you proud to be British, doesn't it? The Brits always do care about animals, actually.
Yes.
Right? We're good at that. And actually, when they're down to 30 in the world, some Brits took it upon themselves to restore the numbers and get it up to 3,000.
Yeah. So. But I do find myself thinking, because you talked about technique that he used, I start thinking about what technique is this? Like, this guy's gone, do you know what? I need to make it my life's work to watch these geese fuck.
He's living my dream life. So Mark Zuckerberg has been in news quite a lot for his fitness regimes. I think you mentioned off air that you've seen he's into his jiu-jitsu.
He is into his jiu-jitsu.
Before that, he was into his running. And then the jiu-jitsu kind of complemented his running fitness, and when he got back into running, he was even faster than he was before.
He's basically rich enough to not ever have to work ever again, and can actually afford time to get fit.
Yeah,
unlike everyone else in the world.
And it seems like he's been doing it behind closed doors, and burst onto the scene to say, "Look how athletic I am." And he's done this thing called the Murph Challenge, which is named after a Navy SEAL. Basically, it consists of a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 press-ups, 300 squats, and a 1 mile run. And Mark Zuckerberg did it whilst wearing a 9-kilogram vest, and he did it in 39 minutes 58, which puts him in the top 1% of people that have ever completed the Murph Challenge. And he was doing it whilst wearing a 9-kilo vest.
That just makes me think he's got some like kind of biomechanical stuff going on in there. You know?
We have suggested he might be part robot, haven't we, in the past? So.
Well, he's pretty much done it himself with his responses to various questions. But I don't know how to feel about that. He's continually trying to prove himself as like a kind of a Chad kind of thing. The Social Network film was all about how he was pissed off because he got dumped, and then he wanted to and then he dropped out of Harvard and all that. Yeah. But now it's like he's got like a chip on his shoulder against the world. Needs to prove that he is actually not a geek. Yeah. He is a Chad.
He's a buff guy. That jiu-jitsu thing, he won a competition, didn't he? He just turned up unannounced at a jiu-jitsu competition, and he got either gold or silver medal or something.
Yeah, like I'm so cynical about these things. I'm like, we obviously paid everyone off, didn't we? Don't choke me out. I'll pay you 50 grand. I mean, I wouldn't choke him out if you gave me 50 grand.
No, I wouldn't either.
And what's that to him? It's fuck all. It changes my life.
Yeah.
Moving on seamlessly from Zuckerberg and his Oculus Rift virtual reality headset, which, by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen, but the Facebook version, the meta version of headsets is like all cartoony, accentuated colours and graphics.
Yeah, I've never actually tried the Oculus Rift, but the graphics that I've seen online look a bit shit.
It reminds me of the Wii graphics.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Wii graphics.
Really poor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
And then you pop your Oculus Rift on and just start walking around and no one else is there because no one else is wearing a headset, right?
Shit.
Yeah, this week Apple have announced the Vision Pro, which is they're calling it mixed reality. So is it virtual reality? Is it augmented reality? It's meant to be a bit of everything. Right. Just for the viewers that don't know, and you may not know, augmented reality is when you overlay something else onto the existing surroundings that you're in. Yeah. For example, you can put like a TV screen in front of your room, so you can see the whole room, but you also see the TV. Yeah. Virtual reality is when everything is virtual. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. Yeah. And I think it's quite curious that it said it's a mixed reality, and it can be used for both. Yeah. I have to say, I saw this at $3,500. This is going to fail. It's going to flop because for some, I don't know why, but VR just doesn't seem to be taking off. Yeah. But then I started to look into what the actual tech was, and there is a lot of expensive technology in there. So with the Oculus Rift, you have to have the remotes on either hand. Yep. And your inputs are from the remotes that connect wirelessly to the headset and whatever. So if you click with something, it will then click. If you move it, if you twist. Yeah. So you can play ping pong or whatever, right? The Apple Vision Pro uses hand gestures. There is no click inputs. All right. As an example, to click, you just close your fingers. Okay. Like that. You don't have to have your hand in front of you while you close your forefinger and thumb to click. So for the listeners there, that's what I just did there.
Yeah, like you can have pinch.
It. Yeah, right. It will detect if your hands are by your side, and you do that. So yeah. So there's like an unbelievable amount of sensors and cameras and all sorts on there. There's some really amazing tech in here. The eye tracking stuff. There was a developer that came out today who has been talking about he spent 10% of his life on that product, which sounds like quite dramatic, doesn't it? It's a typical Apple thing to say. Yeah. I've spent 10% of my life for 3.5 years. The guy's 35 years old. And he said he's tried to kind of inform the public. He doesn't any longer work at Apple. Inform the public about some of the tech that's in there by referencing the patents, so it's public information. And one of the things he said was about the pupils in the eyes can predict what you're going to do based on what happens with your eyes before you actually then do it. So for instance, if you look at something and you're about to click it, your eyeballs react before your hand would. Yeah. Just like if you were to click a mouse, right? Yeah. And that can then mean that they can serve up different content based on what your irises and your pupils are doing.
Mental. Yeah. So for an example of that might be, just off the top of my head, if you're in a supermarket and you see a chocolate bar that you like, your pupil will like dilate a little bit extra, and they can quickly, instantly
find a better chocolate bar.
More
expensive.
Yeah, or like increase the price. Yeah. We'll see you're about to buy that. It's going up 50p.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing. There's all sorts of other patents that he did reference, but like the takeaway is, a lot of people are saying this is going to fail because it's expensive and VR has not taken off in general, right? However, I would say if any company is going to make something like this work, it will be Apple. If Apple fail at this, I'm really not sure that anyone ever will succeed at it. Remember there was the Google glasses that used to be? There was a little screen in front of the eyeball. Yeah. That failed. They canned that project many years ago. I have to say, I went from being like, there's no way I would buy that. Not on a million years would I buy that and it's going to flop, to watching a few reviews and thinking, I really want to try it. Yeah. And I probably would buy one. That wouldn't mean that to say that I wouldn't sell it after a few months if I didn't use it. Yeah. But I'm curious to buy one, even at that price.
What do you think you would use it most for? If somebody gave you one today, what do you think you'd spend the next few days doing?
I'm glad you asked, Salmon. Okay. There's this thing that means that it can switch from a virtual reality headset to the augmented reality. And what that really does, looks like it's making the visor transparent and that you can see your eyes. Yeah. And the emphasis on that is sometimes you'll be wearing the headset, you don't want to take it off and look. Yeah. You want to be able to see your surroundings. This isn't a new thing in VR headsets. VR headsets contain various levels of quality cameras that will, when you press a button, switch to show me what's around me mode. Okay, yeah. In the adverts, though, it looks like you're seeing transparency, but actually what it is, it's a screen on the other side pointing outwards, and it's a camera of your eyeballs. So what Apple have done is made it look like you're looking, and you are looking through cameras, but for anyone externally, they see screens of your eyes.
Live footage of
your eyes, yeah, exactly. So what can happen there is basically your surroundings fade in to your augmented reality or your virtual reality, and that's the whole point of it being mixed reality. Yeah. So getting back to your question, what would I use it for? Obviously, I'm going to use it for porn. Obviously, high quality, 3D rendered, hand gestured like porn. There, 100%. No haptics, but you can make your own haptics. Because of that, if my missus walks in as I'm, getting juiced up, she walks in and she just phases into the porn from my point of view. Not only that, but then my eyes phase into her and she then sees my fucking reaction. The tech's good until you're caught juicing up.
Well, I wasn't expecting that.
What would you use it for, man?
I don't know. I'm struggling to imagine what it'd be good for. Like, I kind of feel like if you're watching a football match as well, you might be able to like look around and feel as though you're in the stadium. Yes. If you're watching a TV footage.
So one of the use cases here is that sitting in a stadium watching an NBA game or live. But this is where I do feel like maybe Apple has the edge. Because the technology is so much better and they've spent so much money on it, and Apple are Apple, and there's so many fanboys out there that I think it's as good as the developers that develop stuff for it, and I think people will develop stuff for this because they will be able to monetize it.
Yeah. Ducking hell.
So on the theme of Apple, also, I don't know if you knew, you're an Android guy, aren't you? Yeah. Well, whenever you type fucking hell on Apple, they've got this thing where they always autocorrect it to ducking hell. Right. It's just a thing. Okay. So like, it's not uncommon to type fucking hell 3 or 4 times and it will just keep autocorrecting it before you then figure out, and then, well, they've made a executive decision that they are now going to not autocorrect that. The machine learning will try and figure out that you really mean fucking hell instead of ducking hell. Okay. Who ever means ducking hell? I know, yeah. When do you ever mean that? Like, why would you? Yeah. So, I think the machine learning part of that is bullshit, to be honest. Yeah. That'll stop now. You won't be able to relate to that, but Apple users will really be able to relate to that.
I quite prefer ducking hell because it's kind of like you want to swear, but you're being polite. It's like, oh, shut the front door sort of thing. It's like, I think if somebody sent me a saying ducking hell, I'd prefer reading that to fucking hell.
Yeah, but it's because you're nice and most people aren't, though.
That's true, yeah.
Especially Apple users, because they've just spent £3,500 on a headset.
Yeah, they want to swear.
Ducking hell, I just spent so much on this.
There was a headline about an AI-controlled US military drone that killed its own operator in a simulated test. From what I understand, what happened is this AI drone, the way the article was written was though this actually happened in real life and a real drone was sent off and it turned around and started attacking its owners. But following a discussion with you, I confirmed that this is all in a simulation. So this never actually happened in the real world. It was all on the computer. Yeah. This AI drone was given set targets to go and destroy. When it was on its way to go and destroy these targets, it was given further instructions saying, actually, these ones we want point to keep them alive, don't kill them, just to go and attack the other ones. And because the AI drone didn't want to have its instructions compromised, it was like, hang on, whoever's just given me that instructions is trying to stop me from completing my job. I'm going to go and destroy that before I go and continue and finish my job. So it was kind of like once you've released the AI drone, there's no going back, because you're going to be seen to be interfering with its objectives.
That is frightening, isn't it? Because, I mean, when you actually extrapolate what we were talking about here, they were talking about drones that could drop potentially, I mean, I don't think this happens yet, but drones that could drop very powerful nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
So, fucking hell.
And once it sees the humans as trying to interfere with
the mission that the humans have given it.
Yeah, that's not looking good, is it? There's been quite a lot in the press about the need to bring in regulations, and I think Labour have made it one of their policies to regulate.
That's a stroke of genius from them to actually put that in the manifesto. It makes them sound a little bit more progressive.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a PR stunt, that.
I think so, yeah, because I think we've discussed in the past that even if it was in the West regulate it, Russia and China and North Korea will just continue with it anyway.
Race
so
ahead,
all you're doing is just putting yourself on the back foot. So I think it is more of a PR stunt than a genuine policy.
Yeah.
Right, headliner. I've got 3 quirky headlines, all from British news sources this week, and Daena's going to pick one and we'll read the article and cover what the actual story is. Number 1, woman wins UK cheese rolling race despite being knocked unconscious. British parrot missing for 4 years returns home speaking Spanish. King Charles had no idea what cling film was and shrieked the first time he saw it.
Oh my God. You know...
Nice selection there this week.
It's a good select. Yeah. That just pisses me off, that last one. You know it's true.
Yeah.
And that probably isn't like one of those they've exaggerated. They've not had to exaggerate that. The story makes itself. But I think you've explained the story there, so we'll discount that one. The parrot one feels fairly self-explanatory, so I'm going to go with the first one.
The woman wins UK cheese rolling race despite being knocked unconscious. The sort of sub-headline: "It feels great," said Canadian Delaney Irving, victor of women's race at Cooper's Hill near Gloucester. A woman was knocked unconscious while running down a hill to chase a 3-kilogram cheese wheel, but still managed to win her race at the bank holiday event. There is video footage of this on the Guardian website. Video footage posted on social media showed Delaney Irving falling while pursuing the double Gloucester down an almost vertical Cooper's Hill in Brockworth near Gloucester. Irving, 19, said she only realised she had won the women's race when she woke up in the medical tent. Hundreds of people took part in the contest, which went ahead this year despite safety concerns. And Irving from Vancouver Island in Canada told the BBC she was not cheesed off by what happened. And said the race was good now that I remember it. And then finally, I remember running, then bumping my head, then I woke up in the tent. I still don't really believe it, but it feels great. Cheese rolling is one of those really quirky British events, like the black pudding throwing we have up north.
Yeah. Is it this the one where it's like a really, really super, super steep hill?
Yeah.
And they all flip. Like, it's like 45-degree hill.
It's absolute neck-breaking central.
I'm sure Netflix did a documentary, and one of the episodes was the cheese rolling competition.
They may well have done, yeah.
Unless it was one of those hills, like if it was an average-sized hill, if someone threw a 3-kilogram roll of cheese down a hill, I'd fucking chase it.
Yeah, I would have.
Damn right I'd chase it.
It's probably worth quite a bit.
Even if the risks were high. Standing on a cow shit and slipping, yeah, I'm there.
The thing is, that hill is so steep. Like,
oh, yeah.
As soon as you lose a bit of balance, you're gone, aren't you? Gravity deals with you after that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was good. I mean, I like that because that's kind of what this podcast's about, isn't it? It's all about weird and wonderful, mostly British things that happen. We try and cover some non-British stuff as well.
Yeah. But, the Texans will love that. We've covered Ron DeSantis in a previous podcast because he launched his presidential campaign on Twitter with the help of Elon Musk, and it was an absolute disaster because the tech all failed. Looking at the polling now for the favourite to be the Republican candidate in the next election next year.
And the polling's not usually millions of miles out, is it?
No, and I think this is the most reliable poll that's out there that we've looked at. Donald Trump is leading the way to be the Republican candidate by a long way. He's got well over 50% of the share of the vote.
Yeah.
The only thing that might stop him is he's got all of these legal issues hanging over him.
Yes.
That if it's looking bad for him, and it's going to potentially mean that he might have to run the country from jail or something, that he would actually conjure up some sort of like medical illness or an excuse to pull out of the race and say, I'm not well enough to do it this year, but I'll be back, sort of thing. And then he may end up getting prosecuted after that. So he is now the strong favourite to lead the Republican Party as things stand.
And I feel like he would probably beat Biden as things are.
And Biden
today.
is almost certainly 99% going to be the Democrat candidate.
Yes.
So, and I think Donald Trump would beat Biden, actually, as things stand. We may be looking at 2024. I think it's like November 24, the elections, but we may be looking at President Trump. And if it's not him, Ron DeSantis isn't the guaranteed backup. There's a huge, wide field of people all vying to become the Republican candidate, and it could actually be any of them by the sounds of it.
Jesus.
So it's either Trump or a wild card.
It is wild, isn't it? I mean, everyone said that Trump was just all about selling headlines and it was a big drama, and that was true, and it really was. But one thing I always admired about him, I don't admire much about Donald Trump, by the way. I think he's a total dweeb. Yeah. But one thing I liked was that he did try to get things done. He always did, and there were things that he did get done. He's a businessman at heart, and I think when you're a businessman, you have to make harsh, hard decisions, stick by them, and see them through. And I think that is something that he was quite good at.
I think the issue with him is he tries to make America, he's so proud American that he actually tries to make them more insular and not like open to the world. Yes. And he's like, no, we're America, we shut everyone else out. Whereas I think the way the world's going is more sort of global connectivity. And if you've actually got the leader of one of the biggest countries in the world shutting himself off, China and Russia do something similar as well, and Britain have left the EU, we start to see a trend there of countries becoming more insular, and then that's only a bad thing really in my eyes.
Yeah, I would agree. I completely agree. But it's good to watch, isn't it? If you're not involved in it, it's so great from across the pond to watch it and go, wow, get the popcorn out. Again, getting the popcorn out.
Yeah, and then if you don't think Donald Trump is going to be found guilty of these legal issues that are hanging over him, and he's therefore very likely to become president, is worth putting a bet on, because the odds on him to become the next president are quite good at the minute. They're not massively high, but considering he's a strong favourite, worth sticking a little bet on.
Pork Scratchings, we're all about trying to give you some interesting facts, figures and stories heading you into the weekend, honking you into the weekend. So sometimes this can go all over the place. We've had all kinds of weird and wonderful, and it's the headliners then, Pork Scratchings. We don't have a jingle for it, so
yet.
Watch this space. What Gladiators' thumbs up and thumbs down signals meant in real life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. According to historians, the thumbs up and thumbs down signals used in Gladiator are not only historically inaccurate, but were the exact opposite. The thumbs up and thumbs down signals seen in Gladiator have an interesting history and meaning in real history. During the Gladiator epic fights in Ridley Scott's 2000 epic, sometimes a fighter's fate would be decided by the Emperor with a thumb signal. Yeah. Obviously, thumbs up, let him live. Thumbs down, the guy's dead, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Throughout the film, Commodus uses the thumbs up gesture to signal victor of the fight, spare the loser's life, and other times thumbs down gesture to lose the guy's life. Based on different reports on how Romans communicated, Gladiator is historically inaccurate by switching the thumb gestures.
No way.
If the emperor wanted to spare the life of a gladiator who lost, he would either make a closed fist or he would indicate a thumbs down gesture, indicating that the winning gladiator should lay down his sword.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. On the other hand, the thumbs up signal back in ancient Rome was actually known as infestus pollex, which is Latin for hostile thumb, which is essentially the same as putting your middle finger up today to someone, which is pretty cool. So it's more of a threat and an insult rather than spare his life. So
I like that.
Historians have been able to piece these together through various different sculptures, poems, paintings that survived at the time. However, the biggest reason for the discrepancy in the movie can be credited to the source of what inspired Ridley Scott to actually make the film in the first place. So this is a famous gladiator painting called The Thumbs Down.
Oh, right.
This 1872 painting, so it's a fucking oldie, painted by Jean-Léon Guérin, they're always French, aren't they? Yeah. Depicted the end of a brutal gladiator fight with the winner staring up at the crowd, all of whom are gesturing with a thumbs down. This sparked a controversy among historians as to whether or not the painting was historically accurate, but the debate ended up being meaningless as within the painting's popularity, the thumbs down signal became associated with a negative response.
Wow.
So basically, by the time that painting has come out, thumbs down was already seen as a negative thing.
Yeah.
But actually, at the time of Gladiator times, it would have been a merciless thing, a merciful thing. Yeah. So based on behind the scenes of the making of the Gladiator, the screenwriters came to Ridley Scott with their script, the proposal, and a copy of the thumbs down painting. The Gladiator painting inspired Ridley Scott, and he agreed to make the film on the spot. So that painting inspired him to make the film.
That's amazing.
With this in mind, Scott could have researched the real meaning behind the thumb, but instead, like most, he associated thumbs down with the call for death. However, the crew reported that they knew all about the switching, but decided to go with thumbs up meaning life and thumbs down meaning death, as that's how audiences would likely perceive these signals in contemporary use of thumb language.
Perfect. That's so good. I really want to see that picture. I'm going to Google it straight away.
So yeah, that was the misinterpretation of thumbs up.
Fantastic. Really enjoyed that. To finish off, we're just going to look at a bit of football news, and also just to mention that there's a heat wave coming in the UK as well next weekend.
We need this, don't we?
Like to the point where we're being told probably not a good idea to leave the house between 11 and 3 if you're elderly or vulnerable or, you know, a baby or something.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to us, does it?
I mean, I'll burn to a crisp, so it does matter to me.
For those listeners that don't watch the podcast, Salmon is strawberry blonde?
Yeah, strawberry blonde, yeah.
I said strawberry.
Trans ginger. Saudi golf is on the list because the Saudis basically set up a new brand of golf, the LV tournament, owned by the Saudi public...
Crazy golf, like insanely crazy golf.
Owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabians, like, the royal family. And then they basically started poaching all of the best golf players and paying them hundreds of millions to go and join this new golf. And then there was a huge standoff between the original PGA Golf and LV Golf. PGA Golf said, listen, we're never going to have anything to do with them. And the upcoming Ryder Cup was going to be like, well, how are we going to allow all of the best golfers that have joined LV to come and be part of the Ryder Cup, which is supposed to be, the most exciting tournament? Anyway, they've just announced a deal today without consulting any of the golfers to merge the two.
So the Saudis have just come to the table then?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
The golfers are all pissed off. The ones that stayed with PGA Golf, because they're pissed off because they said, hang on, we were fighting the cause for like screw LV, and all of a sudden we find out on Twitter that there's a big merger, and then other people are saying Saudis have literally just bought golf. They tried setting up their own, they've half succeeded, and now they've just pumped a load of money to merge the two together.
Classic Saudis.
Yeah, and then that tied in with the news that Benzema, Karim Benzema, the Real Madrid football striker,
legend,
like absolute awesome player, still good now. He's just agreed to leave Real Madrid and go to a Saudi club, Al Ittihad or something. I think it's not where Ronaldo plays, but it's one of the top teams in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
and also the PIF, the Public Investment Fund for Saudi, have just announced that they're going to pump billions into the Saudi Arabian Football League and make it more exciting, more attractive, and reach a more global population.
How do you pump money into a sport to make it more exciting? To me, that's like, all right, there'll be some technology that pumps 6 balls on the pitch randomly. Like,
I suspect it's going to be advertising, stadium increases, coverage, and
nude girls coming out at halftime with cards, right?
Yeah, I'm not in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, not in Saudi Arabia.
I suspect they might even part fund the clubs, to invest in better players from overseas and things. And we've talked in the past about sports washing and the Saudis basically trying to get their mitts into every single sport. But can you see in the future the Saudi Arabian Football League being one of the top leagues, and potentially even the top teams being in the Champions League?
I think they obviously know that sports tourism is huge. It also helps really stamp the authority of a country or a city, whatever it is. They recognised long ago that they just don't have much sports going on in Saudi Arabia. And why would you? It's a fucking desert. Yeah. Like, nobody's playing football in Saudi Arabia. I mean, like everything, they've got very deep pockets and money talks. People want to go over there. So Ronaldo, we're saying here, Messi's, where's he off? Saudi Arabia's.
That's right. That's the point. He's going the other way into Miami in America, which is David Beckham's team. That's David Beckham's franchise team.
Yes. I like the shirts. They're like pink.
They're cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, very nice. But it's interesting with Messi because we covered in after the World Cup the fact that he had such close ties to the Qataris and whose dream it was to, get Messi to win the World Cup in their country, and they owned PSG and brought them there. And the Qataris seem to be helping Saudi Arabia with their sort of bid to host a future World Cup. I thought it was inevitable that Messi was going to go over and play in Qatar, and you'd have Messi via Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia, not Qatar, and see Messi over there. So I'm quite surprised he's gone to Inter Miami.
Yeah, I feel like with that, he's more than likely would have had more money on the table to go to Qatar or to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
However, I think for his brand, I think going to Miami is going to be way better for him. Cracking the American market will be worth more to him in the long run.
Yeah.
I didn't realise this. One of my colleagues today used a reference to Stan Collymore and basically saying that it was a reference to something random, but it was the fact that he transferred to a lot of different clubs.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute. Why are you not using like Robbie Keane as the archetypal? Because Robbie Keane moved through so many different clubs, right?
Yeah.
And I looked into it. Robbie Keane played in LA Galaxy for like 5 years.
Yeah, I knew that, yeah.
And I'm speaking about Messi's brand being so good, but you've never heard of Robbie Keane since he left England.
When you look at some of the USA football teams, there's quite a lot of familiar names over there. And actually, they don't seem to have made that much of an impact.
No.
Even Ibrahimovic went over there towards the end of his career.
Yes.
And,
he's just retired a few days ago, by the way.
Yeah. Little nod to that great career he had, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like the stars that go over to America don't seem to have that much of a big impact. Maybe Messi will be different because he's unique. But
yeah, I do think it's more about how they grow their following and their influence and their like future bank balance rather than their immediate bank balance.
Yeah.
City have won the FA Cup just at the weekend.
Yeah.
Not by as high a margin as I thought they would. I thought it'd be 3, 4, 5 goals difference. They won it 2-1?
2-1, and the 2 goals were very good from Ilkay Gundogan,
And they've won the league, so they beat Arsenal to the league. We thought both of those things would happen.
Yeah.
One thing we was less sure about was the Champions League. I thought Real Madrid would win the Champions League. They have now beaten Real Madrid, knocked them out. They're in the final against
Inter Milan. They played Real Madrid off the park. They were absolutely a different level to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And Inter Milan, you feel, just don't stand a chance because this Man City team have peaked at the right time and they're just so good.
They're going to win it, aren't they?
Yeah. I think the argument for Man United fans whose Man United won the treble, the same treble in 1999, is that back in 1999, the Premier League wasn't so much better than every other European league. So for an English team to win the Champions League at that point was more of a success than an English team winning the Champions League now, because the Premier League has so much more money than every other European team.
Come on, that's clutching at straws.
Also,
because you can also argue that winning the Premier League was then easier for United back then.
You might be able to argue that. For Man United, it wasn't easier because Man City have just walked this Premier League. They've won it with a few games in hand.
Okay,
and the top teams historically in the Premier League have all pretty much failed this year.
By the way, I think as a Liverpool fan, right, who has been in competition with Man City heavily in the last 5 years, and obviously the rivalry between Man United and Liverpool, I still respect, as a Liverpool fan, United's treble way more than City's treble this time.
Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly who Man United beat in the Champions League, but I'm pretty sure they beat Barcelona on the way, and then obviously beat Bayern Munich in the final.
Yeah,
so that was a difficult route, and actually at that time, Bayern Munich and Barcelona were up there with the best teams in Europe.
Yes,
whereas Real Madrid,
Inter Milan are not.
No, I don't. That's it. Around Europe, there's not that many really good teams anymore, other than Real Madrid, who Man City absolutely obliterated.
The fact that Tottenham Hotspur got to the final a couple of years ago
that proves it, doesn't it? Really,
yeah.
And just to wrap up on the very final thing on the football related, on the fantasy football, I play in the Telegraph League, and I finished second out of like a couple of hundred people, nearly 200 competitors, I think, and I finished second, and I won £100.
Oh yes. Hello.
Paid £10 to enter.
Money's just flowing into you at the moment, isn't it? Good effort.
Yeah. So there we go.
I've been MachineDaena, technical special person.
And I'm Andrew Salmon, Coronation Street Extra.
Also technical special person. And this has been Electric Honk Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care. Have a wonderful week.
Good evening.